sisters, excuse the cough. Today, on this 3rd of Muharram, on these holy days in this holy month, I want to speak about a subject I never thought I would have to speak about from the minbar. I'm not sure, some of you, many of you, most of you perhaps, may have heard of a man by the name of Zakir Naik, an Indian doctor, hugely popular on the subcontinent, in Pakistan, in India. People crowd and queue at his lectures. His DVD sales go through the roof. He's got a rock star aura within the Muslim community in the subcontinent. Everyone's talking about him for many years now, and in the Middle East, and even here in the West, where he's come and given lectures and conducted debates in America and in Britain. And you can even catch his Peace TV on channel 823 on Sky, if you're interested. He's the founder of Peace TV and the president of an organization called the Islamic Research Foundation. He is a preacher in the style of the American Christian evangelicals. He adopts a similar manner. He's a dawah specialist, loves to go out. He's become very famous for his loud voice, his confident English. His debates, all he loves to do is debate with Christians about Jesus, with Hindus about vegetarianism, with atheists about science. He himself, as I said, is a former medical doctor, didn't spend too much time on medicine, moved on. And some Muslims, even some Shias, in recent years have become big fans of his. His DVDs, as I said, his books, spreading around the community. I personally have never been a great fan, because I never saw him as any kind of scholar or thinker. He seems to me, he does it very well, he seems to me to be simply a human supercomputer. He has an unbelievable photographic memory with which he's able to memorize vast swathes of the Quran, the Gospels, the Bible, the New Testament, Old Testament, the Vedas, the Guru Granth Sahib. You name a religious scripture, this man's committed it to memory. And he can produce verses left, right, center, ad nauseum. Test him. I always make fun of my cousins in India, and with respect to many of you who've been through the Indian school system, there is a style of education that I call ratification, where you simply blindly memorize. You don't have to understand what you're saying, but as long as it's here and you can produce when asked, it's called knowledge. But not all of us would define knowledge in such a way. And he is not a knowledgeable man, nor, I would argue, is he some great Sunni scholar. In fact, he calls himself occasionally a Muslim, a Sunni, a Hanafi, a Shafi'i. He denies being they who we rightly, and nowadays our non-Muslim friends so rightly hate, the Wahhabis. The biggest cancer, the biggest virus within the Islamic community. And he's always denied that he is a Wahhabi or a Salafi, as they like to call themselves. He's denied that he has anything to do with jihadists, extremists, Al-Qaeda, Bin Laden. He claims to believe in peace. He called his TV channel Peace TV. And yet, you can go on YouTube, youtube.com, online video site. You can go on YouTube and you can watch him giving a lecture, and I've seen him, in which he says, if Osama bin Laden is terrorizing the enemies of Islam, I am with him. If he's terrorizing America, then I am with him. Every Muslim should be a terrorist. This is the phrase, this is the belief of the man who claims to lead so many Indian Muslims, who starts a channel called Peace TV. What a wonderful reputation he's giving our community. Every Muslim should be a terrorist. Choice quote, which is all over the internet. Indeed, the Hindu newspaper reports that Kafil Ahmed, I don't know if any of you remember, Kafil Ahmed, remember the man on fire outside Glasgow airport? The fool drove his car into an airport, failed to kill anyone but himself. When he lived in Bangalore, he invited Zakir Naik to give lectures to him and his friends. The Red Mosque in Karachi, which was burned down and which was attacked by the Pakistani army, which was a hiding hole for Pakistani Taliban, when they took hold of the Red Mosque, the Dawn newspaper reports that they found cassette after cassette of Zakir Naik. So he calls himself a moderate, a peaceful man, a non-Wahhabi, but we know who he is. Today, however, I don't want to waste any of our time discussing his views on Al-Qaeda or Wahhabism or terrorism or whatever. I want to discuss his views in these 10 days of Muharram about a man named Yazeed. A man who tragically, sadly, unfortunately we all know so well. Because many of you will be well aware of the fact. In fact, some of you here have even told me specifically to address this subject, which is why I'm doing so in this first Majlis of mine in this month. That last month, on December the 2nd, at the end of a 10-day peace conference, he loves to be associated with the word peace. At the end of a peace conference in Bombay, on the very last day, Dr. Naik was asked a question by a Hindu member of the audience. The Hindu member of the audience, by the way, on a side note, asked him first about the so-called Hussaini Brahmins. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of the Hussaini Brahmins. This is the group of Punjabi-originated Brahmins who believe that their ancestors, led by a warrior named Rahab Siddat, had moved to Baghdad 14 centuries ago with his tribe of warriors. They were mercenaries, Hindu mercenaries. And they lived in Baghdad, and their belief, and the belief of some Indian historians, is that in 680 AD, when our beloved Imam Sayyid al-Shuhada, Imam Hussain ibn Ali alayhi salam, when he was alone on that battlefield of Karbala, and the Muslims had abandoned him, the Kufans had abandoned him, the Syrians had abandoned him, the Makkans had abandoned him, these Hussaini Brahmins believed that Rahab Siddat brought his mercenaries and fought alongside Imam Hussain in the battle of Karbala and sacrificed 7 of his sons in the name of Imam Hussain. Today, they take great pride in this belief. In 1924, the famous Hindu writer Munshi Premchand wrote a novel called Karbala in 1924, in which he devoted a whole chapter to the Hussaini Brahmins and their history. They take great pride even today that their ancestors, when Muslims didn't come, Hindus went to help Imam Hussain. That is their belief, rightly or wrongly. They take great pride in it. There are many famous Hussaini Brahmins today. Believe it or not, the late Indian film actor Sunil Dutt and his son Sanjay Dutt are claimed to be descended from the Hussaini Brahmins. I never thought I would mention Bollywood actors on the mimbar, but such is the history of our religion, such an interesting history. So they take great pride that they were there in Karbala. And yet Zakir Naik, this dawah specialist, this expert on interfaith dialogue, this student of Hinduism, this memorizer of the Vedas, he had no idea what the Hussaini Brahmins were, nor could he answer a question on it. This Hindu member of the audience then compared Hinduism's demon, Ravan, with Islam's very own demon, Yazeed ibn Muawiyah. Again, what did Zakir Naik have to say? Nothing of substance. He had nothing to say, for he knows nothing. So he said, and I quote, and you can watch this, the video is still on youtube.com. He says, this is Dr. Zakir Naik addressing a crowd in public in December. As far as our understanding about the war of Karbala, you said that Yazeed, may Allah be pleased with him, that he was ferocious and a villain, but there is a difference of opinion. What we say, Zakir Naik says, what we say is that there is a difference of opinion between the Sahaba. That was only a political war that was fought. Astaghfirullah. I'm not sure where quite to begin in analyzing, in rebutting the complete historical inaccuracy and outrageous dishonesty replete in this statement from the very first word to the very last word. A lie from start to end. He says this with such boldness. And I remember sitting there in December, somebody forwarded me the link, and I'm watching this video, and I'm thinking to myself, I know Sunni-Shia relations are bad. I know the Muslims are in trouble. I know there are crises around the world. I know we've reached a low point. But have we really reached such a low point in Islamic history that a so-called Sunni scholar, a Wahhabi propagandist like Zakir Naik, can stand up in the middle of India in a public forum and praise Yazeed? Defend Yazeed? Say, may Allah be pleased with him? We've reached that stage, brothers and sisters. That is the tragedy of our ummah, of our history, of our politics, of our community, of our unity, or should I say disunity. I never thought in 10 years of having the opportunity, the blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to sit on this mimbar and recite majalis, I never thought I would have to recite a majlis on Yazeed. On Yazeed. It's like sitting down with a bunch of Jews and talking about Hitler. It's pointless. It's taken for granted. And yet we've reached that stage where we now have to again remind ourselves, ask ourselves, who is Yazeed ibn Muawiyah? Who is this man Yazeed? Who they claim, some of them claim Allah should be pleased with. But we know, and history tells us, the Quran tells us, that Allah will always only curse him. Sallallahu.